And even in your case,
Hello.
though it's the toughest case I've yet to face,
Hey, Broadway fans.
don't worry, I'm determined to succeed. Follow my lead, and yes, indeed, you will be popular. You're gonna be popular. I'll teach you about the proper.
Well, hey guys, if you want to be popular in your next interview by picking and pitching the right technical project, guess what? You're in the right Zoom webinar for today. Thanks for giving up your lunch with us. My name is Ashley French. I have the pleasure of being the director of our talent team at Arkansas Center for Data Sciences. And along with me today, our co-host extraordinaire, Nicole Parsons, also in the P for popular, picking and pitching the right project. And you may also recognize a few other familiar faces with our team. We've got Katie, Kristen, Jenny, Amanda. You know, we all have the pleasure of being career coaches and kind of tech recruiters for Arkansas Center for Data Sciences. You know, we are a nonprofit here to serve you as Arkansans interested in getting into a IT computer science career. So excited to kind of jump in and get started. But to recap for anyone that's new to our programs, as I mentioned, we are a nonprofit. We do career coaching and training assistance for anyone in the state of Arkansas interested in transitioning into a technical career. We have actually a couple of openings on our career site that we'll add in the chat, but hopefully today will be a quick open forum. Please, you know, have open dialogue, put anything in the chat for questions, or you know, would love to interact with you within the next probably 30-45 minutes.
Great. Well, I guess I was too slow on the slides. I was just sitting there on the first one. I was just hanging out. It's fine though. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole Parsons. Like Ashley introduced, I'm one of the fellow career coaches here at ACDS. Excited to be able to talk to you about project examples, what makes a good project example, how to talk about it, how to pick them, and kind of everything in between. But to get us started, in my personal opinion, we talk about like what makes a good project example. I think any project has the potential to be a good project. It just depends on how you present it and some of those fellow details on that side. As a general rule of thumb, if you've gained any kind of like knowledge or experience from it, I'm going to count it as a project example. Now, the question stands, what really sets apart like an okay project to a project example that screams like, yes, we need to hire this person now? In my opinion, a great project is the one that showcases all your technical abilities. And ideally, we're picking something that is pretty close to the job that you applied to. Now, obviously, if it's like a software developer position that you applied for, talking to me about like how you built your own PC, probably not gonna match up skill-wise for what we're really looking for. It's not really going to show the right technical abilities, but it's still a good project, just maybe not for that specific interview. So some other great qualities of a strong project example. We want you to feel confident when you're speaking about your project, meaning that you know the material, you know what you did, how you did it. Recruiters by nature, we're pretty skeptical creatures. And so what we mean by that is we assume everyone is either Googled an answer, we're like fluffing it up a little bit to put the best information out there. And it's our job to kind of get to the root of that, like what is actual facts, what you actually did, how much of it's true, what your true skill level is. And so that just kind of results in us being a little bit more skeptical. So if you're a candidate that's really struggling to talk about this project, you can't really recall the details on how you did it, what the process was, what the steps was, anything like that, we're going to start thinking it's like, well, maybe this is like your friend's project, or maybe this is something you found on Google, something to that effect. And so it's there's always some tips and tricks on that as well. Writing down your answer, practicing your answer, That will help. Just talking to a friend about your project, telling your mom, your dad, your sister, whoever about your project. Some of that will help you get some confidence when it comes to speaking on it and having that experience verbalizing some of those technical details. Another detail, we want you to be excited about your project. At the end of the day, this is the biggest tip that I've ever heard in my recruiting life. People hire people. Thank you, Kristen. I want someone on my team that is excited about IT, that's excited about all the possibilities that IT has to offer, and that is excited about what it can do. At the end of the day, that's the person that's really going to stand apart. That's the person who's going to go above and beyond. That's the person I want on my team. All right. So how do you answer that project question? That, can you tell me about a time about you worked on a project? Give me some of those details. It's a hard question to answer, but there's a formula, in my personal opinion, my favorite, on how to answer it. Now, this is one of those questions that I personally think holds the most weight in an interview for multiple reasons. I learned so much about you during this question that is like just woven into your answer. Some of those soft skills, some of those, other details they maybe didn't mean to include, but I got a lot out of it as a recruiter. And so that's some great details that we need to make sure we're getting in there. Some details like, did you work in a team? If so, any leadership skills come out in that? Do we have to lead that team? Do we have to guide them? Did you run into any issues? Yes. Okay. Well, how did you work through some of those issues? Why did you choose that project? What problem are you trying to solve? So from some of those questions, I'm already learning that you are resilient, you're determined, you're not going to raise your hands the second the project got difficult. Maybe you did some extra research or you dug in, try to fix the issue on yourself, right? That's some cool details to know about you. I'm also learning how your brain works, how you tackle real life situations, and how that may be applied specifically to my position that I'm recruiting for. So now we've established that obviously it's an important question. We want to answer it, but how do you actively navigate that question to make sure that all of those details are coming out in your answer and that those skills are coming across to me as the interviewer? So at first, you got to remember, you got to set the stage. This is my first time talking to you, my first time hearing about this project. I am working off of very limited information, right? And so we have to kind of catch the recruiter up a little bit, tell them where you're at, where this came about. Was it a team or was it a solo project? What question or problems were you trying to solve? Kind of what was the purpose of this project? Why are we doing it? What brought you to do this project? Then we're going to talk about how did you complete the project? If you, used any software, tools, technology, resources, anything like that. Why did you choose that tech stack specifically, right? Was it a matter of you wanted to learn a new tech stack, so that's why you tried this new software? Or, this is one I'm the most familiar with and I had a short deadline. Okay, that's also a reason. These languages work best together, I've learned. Okay, great. I don't really care what the reason is, just being able to justify it in some manner. For my corporate experience, that is something that I've learned. A lot of like C-suite level employees, they just like to hear some kind of reasoning. Most of the time they're okay with whatever decision you make, just having some kind of, reason why we did it, something to back it up. If it doesn't work, we can always drop it and try something else, but at least you had a reason to start where you did. Did you run into any issues? If so, how did you overcome those issues? Again, did you have to do some additional research? Did you have to do some digging? Did you have to use a coworker? How did we resolve those issues? How did you find there was an issue? Did you fix it? If so, how did you fix it? All of that great stuff. And then your project plan. So, how did you create your timeline? How did that work? How did you prioritize what task needs to go where? Okay, I had to do this first and then I could do this, or I had to wait on XYZ person to be able to complete their portion of the project before I could move on. All of that kind of plays into, your timeline and what that looked like. Did you have to work with any other stakeholders? Even if it was a solo project that you were running by yourself, did you have a customer you were working with that you had to get feedback from? Or was there someone else, you're working with the marketing team, but you were on software development team. Okay, so you had to talk to them and kind of work through some of that. And so just kind of explaining any other people that were involved in this project, anyone that had another say in this project, some of that's some great details to include in there as well. And then the result, tie it up with a big nice bow, tell me how it went. I want to know all the details. So it was great. It works. It's still in use. It's beautiful, whatever. It solves the work problem, or, you know, it crashed and burned. It's not working, but that I learned a lot from it, right? I'm going to go back and fix it, or kind of whatever the answer is. I don't really have a preference one way or the other. Just tell me where it's at currently. And then a lot of hiring managers like to ask, if you could go back, would you change anything about your project? It's kind of a trick question because the answer is always yes. So yeah, you would change something about your project, even if it's super small, right? I have since learned XYZ language, and I'd probably go back and utilize that. Or, you know, if it's more on the help desk side, I use this brand cooling fan. Realized after looking at some reviews, it's probably not the best. It actually would have been better if I chose this brand, you know, stuff like that. Whatever it is, however you would have changed it, even if it's small, just adding that detail in there as well. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Ashley to kind of walk us through some project examples for help desk, and we'll go back from there.
And Nicole, that's definitely my go-to kind of follow-up question for any project. And and guys, you know, kind of spoiler alert, just because someone says they're an IT recruiter or that's their job title, they don't know everything about technology. Now, of course, we do have someone interesting on our team, Kristen, who actually can sling some code and probably could, you know, dig into and actually know, you know, more about the technologies. But in general, recruiters just know kind of the basics, and they're looking for you to walk through and understand the technologies. And again, you know, a great follow-up question to practice is, if you would do it different, why? And, you know, anything you can share to really showcase your knowledge. At the end of the day, that's our goal. When you're talking about or asking a candidate in the interview about a project example, it's all about figuring out your technical skills and abilities. You know, you can't really do the whole, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your proficiency level with troubleshooting? Because your interpretation of a 5 may be different than mine. So that's what, you know, really projects are all about. The help desk, IT support specialist career path, you know, this is probably one of the most successful entry-level IT careers that we see career changers or newbies transitioning into. We've got a lot of great company partners in town that have internships and then full-time apprenticeship positions. And in these type of interviews, you know, you want to give some type of real example. And, you know, if you are, you know, tech savvy and the Mr. or Miss Fix-It of your family, think local within your family, within your network. Is your grandma's internet not working? Another thing you could look at is the bandwidth speed. You could look at, you know, on the router, what the actual speed is. You could compare it to what's on her ATM bill. Hey, you may even get a discount or a refund if they're not, you know, providing fast as speed as what she's paying for. Maybe even, you know, there's an issue with a mouse or a keyboard. I actually had a candidate help me walk through my own technical issue because my mouse was running slow, and apparently all you have to do is pull out your USB stick and put it back in, and magic, you know, it was resolved. Okay, for gamers, I feel like if you're a gamer, you almost have a leg up in regards to knowing technology and have some really fun opportunities to upgrade your system. You know, whether it's on, you know, speed or memory. I had a job seeker tell me about, he did an upgrade of his cooling system. And I asked kind of, why'd you go with water over air? And he was able to walk through kind of the differences and really showcase the knowledge that he has. Of course, we've all experienced the blue screen of death or the constant spinning because you've got too many apps open. And, you know, our parents and grandparents may not know that there's some easy fixes out there. You can also build your own PC. And you may think that's a little pricey, and there is, definitely some cost involved, but going to different resale shops, pawn shops, and, that's a fantastic exercise in being able to speak to why you chose a certain operating system or why you chose a certain component. Being able to say that you are kind of the family's tech support in regards to researching what laptop or PC to buy, and then take it all the way through implementation, which would be setting up a home office for them, getting it configured to their internet and getting it all set up, maybe even helping them with their favorites, just depending on how, expand you want to go with it. But the beauty is really, the possibilities are endless, but you want to be able to have a real tangible example. What was the problem? What was broken? And then often a recruiter is going to kind of dig into or have these probing questions on, why you took this step. How did you know to do that? So being able to speak to where you did your research. And it's a-okay if it's a lot of, we hear Google and YouTube, not so okay if you say, I can't remember. It makes it more real and honest and authentic if you know, oh, I found this article on Udemy or this resource that, suggested I go and try this option. Another big component with a help desk or IT specialist, just because of the nature of the position, is it's going to be customer service skills. At the end of the day, nobody calls the help desk saying everything's bright and shiny, it's working great. Like being able to showcase how you communicated with maybe someone that was frustrated, and how you, had empathy, let them voice their concerns and kind of explained how you're going to help them resolve their issue. Those are just kind of a few examples to kind of consider and think about. And really kind of our next slide is almost cousins, or maybe the older sister brother component, cybersecurity. Often we see, individuals transition from help desk or, some type of system admin into cybersecurity because that's a little more advanced. It has components of programming in addition to the hardware network side. A really cool website that I would encourage you to check out is Try Hack Me. Nicole was fantastic and actually interviewed one of our training providers, our friends out at Forge Institute, and really got a firsthand expertise from him. And Tony was very upfront on, oh, if you're in the hacker space or cybersecurity, you know what the different levels are, you know what the different challenges mean. So definitely encourage you to check out Try Hack Me and do one of their challenges and be able to walk through if it involved any Python, if it involved any programming, kind of walk through how you solved it, what your options were, and kind of why. You can also set up your own virtual machine at home. Home labs, have been, kind of hot topic just with everything cybersecurity. I know I've gotten my credit card information taken before, but playing around with virtual machines is definitely a great idea to get some good exposure, or even Active Directory. Kind of going back to our previous idea, think about local, family. You could even install some, security monitoring software within your own computer or others. And, when it has if there is a threat, being able to better understand and speak through what that means and why. Just kind of an easy way to hopefully, prevent hackers from getting your information, in addition to getting you a little bit more experience with an example of your knowledge and being able to showcase that in an interview. And then I'm also going to add in our chat, I found on Eventbrite, a free hackathon. So again, hackathons, great opportunity to learn from others, compete, get you some exposure to different technologies. And there's actually one that's all virtual that I will share with you as soon as I can copy paste. And if you don't utilize the Meetup website or Eventbrite, definitely encourage you to check it out. There's a lot of networking opportunities, just kind of a plug. 65% of job transactions or job offers come from some form of networking. And we see it all the time, to where we're also hosting, if you're in Central Arkansas, we have a networking event this evening at the Innovation Hub, free drinks starting at 5:30. But a great way to meet other like-minded individuals within the tech space that hopefully can transition into a job opportunity, in addition to ask them, see what they think are some great projects that are examples or hot technologies that you should be studying and pursuing to help you grow into a career.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually one thing I'll say on that is I've been doing a lot of networking recently. You would be surprised at the amount of people that go to other networking events that aren't targeted to IT, that are actually IT candidates or have been in the IT space. And just to plug on that, go to all the networking events, at least get out there and try to talk to them. Because worst comes to worst, it's one extra person that you can reach out to and say, hey, I applied for this position at your job. Do you mind putting in a good word to a recruiter? Maybe they can, send over a good word and at least get it past the recruiter and the ATS system. So maybe. But I love the plug on the Tech and Talk for Central.
Shameless. I'm shameless. Sorry, Nicole.
Oh, that's okay. I was getting ready to do a shameless plug for Northwest. So May 11th, Tech and Talk is coming to Northwest Arkansas. So it'll be at the Fayetteville Public Library. I think same time frame, 5 to 7. So definitely come check it out. We're all very excited because it's our first Tech and Talk up this direction. So that is our shameless plug. We'll send out the links here after we disconnect, but all right. Moving right on to developers. This is my personal favorite position to recruit for, just because the possibilities are so endless. Just because your project could be literally anything that you want it to be. We have seen super small projects to, oh my gosh, that's an amazing project. How is this not like sold out? Everyone's buying it kind of thing, throwing tons of money at you. So we'll just walk through some like generic projects that we've seen. And then I'll tell you a couple of my favorites before we dive into some other information. So the most common one I see is like a personal portfolio of some capacity, just having your resume out there, a link that you could send to a recruiter, and it's just a little bit about you. Here's my job history. Here is, almost like a virtual cover letter nowadays. It has like the information about your story, your information. You can link to your LinkedIn in there, your GitHub on there. You can kind of make it your central hub. We've seen like the tic-tac-toe games, random number generators, the generic website for like a business. Maybe you helped out someone at church. Maybe a friend has a business that they got going on. Maybe it's a club. We've seen some of those as well. Spotify has a cool API that a lot of candidates have been using, and that has produced a ton of different opportunities on that side. We've had candidates where they've just used the API to kind of make it more of a Pandora instead of a Spotify, where they can put in one song and it'll randomly generate songs that are very similar to it, like Pandora used to do. But that's some really cool opportunities as well. And then the e-commerce website, that one is mostly the project that we see from like boot campers or people that just got out from a degree program. It's a very common project. It's not a bad project. It's just one that we hear quite often. It has all the basic CRUD functionalities in there. It has all the, you can add to cart, delete to cart, all that good stuff. So it's a good project. It showcases a lot of skills. But if you want to be unique, stand out from the competitions, get a little creative with it. Start early, spend your time on it. But really, like I said, possibilities are endless. Some of my favorite projects that I've seen we had a candidate that created a project. Him and his brother were very big into tennis. And so they created an app just to keep up with their tennis scores. And so they can keep up with who had bragging rights at the moment. Does it solve like some world hunger or any like huge world issues? No, but it solved a real world issue. It's for them. They utilize it and it's fun. It shows your personality a little bit. It's kind of fun and quirky. Loved that. You know, and then we've had some where it's super in depth, where it was about, I don't want to give too much of her information away, but she realized that in her own personal life, she had a hard time planning out her meals. And so she created an app that would essentially help her create groceries list a lot faster. It would help her put together random recipes from online. It would scrape the internet for stuff like that. And so that was really cool on that side. And it solved a world issue for her because it saved her a ton of time each week and it helped her be set up for success for the rest of the week. And so, like I said, it can be anything that you want it to be. Just be able to talk about it. That's the key to it. So as far as from like a recruiter standpoint, what I'm really wanting to, hear you answer. Ideally, it's something that you've thought of. It's your project. You created it. It was your idea. Love to hear those projects. If it solves some kind of problem, I'd love it even more. Now, if, like I said, if it is a project that you've done for school or that's where you're at in your career, that's not a bad thing. It's where you're at. That's completely fine. But if we're talking about how we can stand out in a competitive market already, that is my greatest tip, is to have something that is unique to you, something you thought of, something that you're passionate about, just because it'll come across more genuine. Again, talking about people hire people. We want someone that's excited, someone that wanted to create this on their own. Now, we want to know if it's a school project or if it was personal. And then some of those details around like what that means. And so if it was a school project, did your teacher tell you exactly how you needed to set it up? I need this app. You're going to use these, these different technologies. You're going to do this, and like basically gave you a starter pack for it. Or did your teacher give you some basic requirements? I needed to have an API. I needed to be able to do this functionality. Go forth and conquer. It's a lot different. And that helps us better understand the scope of the project, the amount that you had to put into it, all of that. Was it a personal project? And so kind of talking about why that idea came about, where you got the idea, why we're creating it, going back to that setup process. I like to hear how your brain works. And so why did you choose the tech stack that you did? Were you trying something different and it didn't work? How did you work through that? Some of your problem solving abilities. This is where we really started wanting to hear your passion come through. I want someone that is excited about the project, that's excited about IT, because that's the person that I want on my team. Someone that this is like their passion project. They're excited about this project. This has a lot of weight to it. And so just again, what would you change about your project? Kind of going through on that side. You go back, what would you change and why? Moving on to data analyst. So data is literally everywhere. I think the key of this one is just finding something that you're interested in, something that you want to know more about, and then just going for it. I think the part that candidates really struggle with is finding a data set, where to find that data, how to find data to work with, that kind of thing. But the beauty is there are a ton of public data sets out there for you to utilize. Kaggle is a great resource where you can download some data sets from that side. Amazon also has an open data program as well. So those are just some different places you can go and just pull some data sets depending on what you're interested in. There's a couple different options on there. But some project examples, if you're really interested in sports, one that I've heard on that side is a candidate. He pulled data, I don't remember from where, but it was based on like player performance, how well the player performed, their odds, I think it was on baseball, their odds of getting on base, what that looked like, how many games they played, like all the statistics around it. And basically they utilize that and put together the ideal, perfect fantasy team. And they use that for their fantasy. And so there's something like that. If you are interested in sports, you can utilize That same train of thinking with any niche really in the market. Retail data is going to be a huge one, especially here in Northwest Arkansas. We have Walmart up here, and you know about Walmart, all of their vendors have to have a remote office here in Northwest Arkansas. And so we have a ton of companies that all deal in retail analytics specifically for Walmart. And so that may be a good project to focus on if those are kind of the markets you're wanting to get involved with, the companies you're wanting to target. That may help you be a little bit more competitive because you already have experience in that field. Are you interested in movies? Curious about, you know, what words or keywords or what's getting the most upvotes on Reddit? That's something you can do. Again, it doesn't have to be world problem solving. It doesn't have to be a top tier project. Whatever you're interested in, go for it. Go for the project. It doesn't really matter. I would just, again, have some kind of reasoning on, this is why I chose this project. You know, I've always been interested in XYZ thing, or I'm really interested in your specific company. So I wanted a project that was targeted for your organization, if you want to get a little cheesy on it. As for what a recruiter is looking for, you know, what questions were you trying to answer? What was the purpose of you starting this project? Again, where did you get the data from? If, you know, once you pulled the data, do you have to do any cleaning? Do you have to do any manipulation? If so, what did that look like? How did you do it? How did you complete it? All the steps that go into it, any specific methods you used. We're gonna want to include all of it. Let's see. Any specific tools that you utilize, SQL, Tableau, you know, Power BI, any of those, did you utilize those? If so, how? Any specific things that you did from those? How many rows of data was it? Was it 100? Was it 100,000? Like all of that's going to make a big difference as well. And then what was the results, right? What was that end result? What did you come up with? Did you answer the question? Was the answer what you thought it was going to be? Or did the answer catch you off guard and you were pretty amazed by it? What did you do with that answer? Did you have to present it to someone? Did you, you know, utilize that to change your way of thinking, or you aren't doing it that way anymore? Some of those details, like how did that answer affect your life, or what are you using with it afterwards? All right, so we're kind of bringing us down to an end. Some resources to help you out once you leave here today. If you're just getting started in your career, depending on where you're at, we do have some free training resources on our side. And we have some courses from the University of Arkansas Global Campus, or UAGC. And we also have some of the Google career certificates as well. That's a great way to get some of those certifications under your belt, add to your resume, help build up your credentials. And then there's also a ton of free resources out there online. And we've linked a couple of the ones that we've seen the most often, the one that we like. So definitely go out there and check those out. But with that being said, we've reached the end of today's presentation. We'll open it up for any questions, concerns, anything that didn't make sense, or anything you just want to talk about.
Yeah, feel free to throw something in chat. I know I'm the only one blowing up your chat right now with the different resources, and did want to call out, so the Coursera link that I added about data analytics highlights 5 of the free visualization tools. And I feel like I've been interviewing candidates within the data space to where, you know, they can speak to the raw data. They can tell me how many rows and queries and how they had to clean it, but they didn't pull it into any visualization. And when there's a Google chart, when there's a free version of Tableau that's out there, I feel like if you really want to do a good job of having a project from start to finish, making sure you can speak to the visualization and, you know, why you selected, you know, a certain visual, you know, pie chart, line graph, whatnot, and hopefully it ties into your audience or, you know, question you were trying to answer. But really cool blog on that. And then also put our careers, so our current job openings that we're working on with our employee partners at www.acds.co/careers. But yeah, any questions or comments or thoughts from our listeners today? Don't make me do the Jeopardy music. Do, 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 do.
I suppose the only question I have is, in your experience, just to whoever has an answer, what would be a good project that can stand out but also demonstrates your skills and is not won't be overwhelming to someone who is approaching their first really big project?
Well, first off, I want to reinforce something that Nicole said a couple of times on, I love a project that someone did for fun or something personal about them. Recruiters interview all day long. So when you're, interviewing with a large corporate recruiter, they may have 20 interviews a day. So to really stand out is going to be, a project example that is unique and that you can hear that you intrinsically enjoy. So I would definitely think about that in regards to standing out. And then just being able to in an interview, you may only have 5, maybe 10 minutes max to talk about this project. So being very thoughtful on how you practice, set the stage or paint the picture, the who, what, why you pick this project. And again, walking through what technologies you used, why, any, challenges you overcome along the way, because figuring out if someone is a problem solver is a big attribute that people want to hire. So knowing that you were able to overcome a challenge that you didn't see, you solved it on your own, you didn't call mom, dad, Uncle Joe, help, can you fix it for me? Being able to speak to those attributes would be a couple thoughts. Nicole, what about you?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest one. Just as long as it's unique, right? I don't think there's a perfect answer on like, okay, here is a good project. I like the ones that a candidate's excited about. At the end of the day, that's what I want to talk about. As long as you can talk about it, as long as you're excited about it, that makes it a good project in my book. And so whatever you're excited by, right? I think it'll depend on your niche, and Trace, if we need to, we can always connect offline. We can talk about it a little bit more in depth. But I think the key is just figuring out how you're going to talk about it. And then once you get that little spiel down, it'll come across a lot better.
All right, thank you.
Now, Trace, just curious, what type of careers are you targeting?
Software development, mainly.
I feel like developers have it a little easier in regards to projects because,
I agree.
you want to build a website, you want to showcase those programming skills, you want to, if at all possible, if it has any type of integration to a form or a payment option, things like that, kind of make it go from just a basic, view to, oh, it's more integrated and advanced when it has actual, whether it's automation or multiple pages and views. Another thing that was kind of a new position for me to work on within the last year is UI UX. And it was new to me that there are these dedicated researchers that, look at statistics on what color to make the add to cart button and where to put it and how to present like the whole, flow from a mobile view or a desktop view. So I think that would be something that I think for a website or a app project, bringing in any type of UI UX decision making would be kind of top tier.
Yeah. And so while we were talking, I kind of thought of a couple others that I've heard over the last couple months. But yeah, just to kind of reiterate, it can be a simple game. I had a teacher that is getting out of education, wants to get into software development. one of their big projects that they talked about is just creating some small, simple statistics games. Like if I would have heard that from like a normal, it's like, okay, that's pretty cool. But it was how excited he was about it because he created it to help his students better understand statistics. I think it was like a poker game. So he was like helping them understand, the probability of drawing a card or, probability of getting, a certain hand or anything like that. And so just some of those factors of why he even created the game was what made it such a cool application. And again, a lot of the entry-level starter projects that we see is your personal website. I think a lot of candidates just kind of start there, here is about me, here's my resume, here's my GitHub, here's my LinkedIn, here's how to get all this stuff. Your story can be added on there. I've also seen candidates that really liked a certain band and they created like a tribute page to them and just created all the information about them, some of their history, some of their top hits. Maybe that's where you can include that Spotify API, start including some of that music in there. So yeah, hopefully that kind of gave you a better idea. Great question. Any other questions? All right. Well, if there's no questions, I will just assume, let's see. Great question. I know Katie with our reskill program is amazing, and she's been looking into a lot of resources for our candidates. I know that that's something that we've been talking about. I don't know when or if we're doing it, but there are a ton of resources out there. And I'll try to pull together some if they're not already on that last slide, and we can send those out as well. But usually Udemy, FreeCodeCamp, HackerRank, a lot of those are some great resources for that. And then trying to think, I know the University of Arkansas offers front-end boot camp and a back-end boot camp, but I don't know how much it costs. It's not through us on that side. Yeah, there's a ton of other resources out there we can look into.
Yeah, I just wanted to actually quickly say too, we don't have as many of those types of courses. However, like Nicole is just saying, there is a really great program called Reimagine Arkansas, and they have some fantastic kind of like longer courses that are like sometimes 4 to 6 month long boot campy courses. And I know right now they're offering one free course to anybody who is in Arkansas over the age of 18. So if you guys are interested in that, we can absolutely send you some more information on Reimagine program and the different types of courses that they offer. We do have some like front-end development courses, I know, on our catalog, but they have a bit more of a robust catalog. So we'd be happy to send that your way.
Chris, that's a good one. I'm kind of torn. I love personal projects because you get to do all of the work. When I'm interviewing a candidate, especially when it's a school project, I kind of like to know, what was your role? How did you figure out who does what? And sometimes the candidate may stumble or say something that I ideally didn't want to know, like, oh, another team member did all the coding because they were better at it. I was, more of the project manager. And so I think, either work. I feel like as long as your role in that team project is relevant to the job you're interviewing for, I think that's okay. But if it's not really relevant, then I probably would, highlight a personal project. Trace TBD on the next one. We need our first Tech and Talk for Northwest Arkansas to be a splash to ensure that it keeps going. But we can let you know.
Ideally, it'll be monthly. Ideally, but we'll see. But tell your friends, make sure we flood flood the public library with people.
All right. Well, thank you, Nicole, our host extraordinaire, for our today's event on Pitching the Right Project. Guys, please reach out if we can assist in any way. And our contact information's on the screen. And again, we appreciate your time and keep up the hard work. Sometimes it's a lengthy, journey to enter a career path that you haven't, been formally trained on, but we are here to support you along the way. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.